Yo, how are we doing, everybody? So today I'm doing a guide on chapter 15, Were I King. Now, this is definitely a chapter I've had a lot of trouble with. As you can see here, I'm going to be starting with this quietest ability flat-footed like right away. Essentially the reason I'm doing that is I find that because we're being flanked from 3 different sides. We got north, south, and west here. So I want to go to the west side, as I find that's usually where my highest chance of survival is, where none of my characters will die as I'm trying to set up my defense. So doing that, I do need to like really get everyone over there. Specifically, I generally have trouble with my mages. My mages usually kind of lag behind as they are slow and don't have a lot of movement. So after they take their first turn, before they get to the second turn, they usually have not traveled far enough and potentially die. They're going to either be attacked by like an archer on the north or west side, and then by a blade or soldier from the south side. So yeah, I'm just trying to move so much further forward, really give people that movement they need to have a chance to live. And specifically, I'm trying to take out one enemy as fast as I can, just because that's one less damage source. I really want to secure the west side if everyone's over on the west. It just makes things so much easier. You can see right there, I'm using my fast acting medication right there with Medina. So I'm making a character act much sooner than they normally would. And what I'm doing with that is using this wall of ice. The wall of ice helps as basically those 3 squares, the troops from the south side can't just immediately go through there. They can walk around it to the right or to the left. But again, you know, it's not perfect, it's just the best of what I can do in this current situation. I just need those units to slow down a bit. That's why I'm also going to use this spring trap here. I'm really trying to just increase the amount of space they have to walk around to get to where my characters are, as I really just don't want them to kill me. So doing the best I can to obstruct their path. Healing is a bit intense for me on this chapter. I honestly should have bought a few more restorative items. I end up being a little bit short on them. I think I had like probably 10 of the smaller heals and 10 of the large ones, and I don't think that was enough. Which is interesting, as yeah, I very much have 3 healers between Medina, Cordelia, and Gila. You definitely don't need 3 healers, especially if you're not playing on hard mode. It really does change with your strategy. I personally just like Medina. I think she's a cool character. I also just like that concept of like what she's fighting for, so I really connected with her. But the fact that she has fast acting as an ability is just kind of cool. She's essentially like a Fire Emblem equivalent would be. She's kind of like both a bard and a healer at the same time, so I really like that. But yeah, right here I'm going to be using actually no, yeah, I was like, I don't remember using Light Wave here. But yeah, I am definitely scared about losing my Ice Mage. I'm trying to make sure that he doesn't die. The delayed strike from Serenoa I think is really good, because essentially I have the west side there mostly in my control now. I have that old guy over there, the archer. He's blind. So while technically he can get hits, blind characters generally don't, not even on hard. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm more perturbed by that archer over there on the north side, and then the enemies that are making their way to me from the south side. So yeah, I'm just going to move as far over as I can, and then yeah, I'm trying to make sure Cordelia doesn't get knocked out. She had to absorb a blow. It is what it is. Like, there are a lot of risks I have to take to allow other characters to make it over to the west side safely. As again, yeah, it's definitely really tough getting into the initial position on this chapter. But this is really the hardest part. Like, I had to theory craft a lot as to like where to move my units, like what order I should use their abilities, which Quietus abilities I should use. Like, there's a lot of thinking I've put into this, so this is a really hard chapter, especially if you're playing on hard. So by all means, you know, like it's difficult for me to explain literally every single movement, but feel free to like rewind this and like look at where I'm specifically moving units if you're having trouble, because if you do the exact same thing that I'm doing, more than likely you will find yourself having quite a bit of success. As when it comes to enemy AI, while it is seemingly random, they will generally act the exact same way as long as you are positioning where you did in a previous attempt of that same chapter. So yeah, definitely if you're having too much trouble, just do exactly what I'm doing. Though that is not required, there are definitely different strategies that are viable. And again, if you're playing on a lower difficulty, then it will be even easier to pretty much do your own thing. Yeah, right here, again, I'm just throwing down another wall. Like, there's already so many enemies that are like to my right, so it's a bit difficult. I can't really stop all of them, but I want to just make things as cumbersome as possible. And then yeah, placing my allies next to each other is always a really good thing, because yeah, they're not really in a safe spot yet, but at least by being next to each other, it prevents them from being flanked. If my teammates can't be flanked, we're not taking those follow-up attacks, because yeah, the follow-up attacks are definitely how you can go from being like a full HP character to immediately dead. And yeah, I really love both Roland and Anna. Like, I'm using these characters specifically. Just Roland's damage is really good, and you tie that in with how mobile the character is, I think is very useful. And then Anna also having a lot of movement, and while her initial damage isn't necessarily as high as like say Serenoa's or Roland's, Anna can attack twice. And so she just has so much utility, like she can be used in so many different situations. So I really like that character. Obviously I'm also using Eridor. I think Eridor is really nice because he has the provoke ability. So he can force enemies to attack him. While that's not guaranteed, generally the like Fury status ailment has like a usage rate of like, or affliction rate of like 60-70%, something like that. As long as you're targeting like more than one enemy, it's very likely to go off on at least one, and it's not improbable for it to affect two. But yeah, right here, I'm just trying to really fortify my position, moving people back, and you can see I'm like really putting my back to this blind archer. That's just how, it's just how secure I feel in that. And then yeah, you can see that provoke going off. It was only on the one guy, but again, I'm really trying to make sure they don't kill anybody, because right now I have so many vulnerable units. Jin's over there, doesn't have much going on. Unfortunately, that archer did get their hit off. Gila, my healer, she's kind of exposed there. Like, Eridor is in front of her, but again, like, I'm trying to back everything up, so I thought it was better to get that provoke off. And while, yeah, it was unfortunate I got hit by that archer, it's just the one archer that can attack these units that are back there, so it's like, I just don't even care. That's damage that isn't going to kill any of these units, and obviously the archer is going to prefer to target these weaker units I'm putting in the back, rather than moving forward to attack my units that are actually more at risk of dying, because they're further forward and can be attacked by multiple units. Because the AI isn't that intelligent to realize like, oh, I need to save this damage for this unit so I can actually get the KO. It doesn't look that far forward. The AI is always just like, what is the most damage I can get? Unless it's a chapter where you can like specifically fail because a unit dies, then like say Roland for example, they do tend to like specifically go for him, but only if he's in range, which is the case in this chapter. Roland was not in range of the archer, so he did not care to try to target him. And yeah, like just having that awareness, understanding which enemies or which targets the enemy wants to choose is huge, as that makes it so much easier to position your troops to take advantage of that. And so that way there's going to be situations where, just like here, I can really let a enemy just stay alive because they're not a threat. They're not bothering anybody. Like this one in particular, that archer, now he's not just blind, he is also asleep. So yeah, he is definitely going to be chilling for a few more turns. I do not mind having him there. Yeah, right here, again, Medina. Love her so much, having these 3 healers, super duper important. And yeah, that mage right there, the ones with the staffs, those are specifically the healers, they're not damage dealers. But that is a pretty painful status debuff to have my magic defense lowered in physical defense, because that makes it a lot easier for me to just die from strong attacks. But thankfully, I'm not quite sure why, but it definitely works like this. When I was positioning over there on the west side, the enemies were getting confused, the southern side enemies, and they were actually backing off for a bit, which bought me a few extra turns of incorporating my plan, getting the positioning that I desired, which was just so huge, so enormous for me. Like, I really, really needed that. And I'm very thankful. Like, again, while the AI generally is always going like pretty straightforward when it comes to their positioning, or their pathfinding, I should say, where they're trying to get to whatever the weakest enemy is. Sometimes when no one is specifically in their range, like no one's close enough for the enemy to get to, and then you also surround all of your allies with each other, and then you use something else to obscure their path, be it ice or a spring trap, something like that, they can sometimes get completely confused, and they will literally just back off. And usually after like a turn or two, they'll, you know, figure out, oh, okay, actually I can go this way. So yeah, it's not an exact science. I don't completely understand why they do that, but it was very, very helpful for me here. And again, if you do the exact same things that I do, they will do the same thing for you. Because the AI is not random, it will always do the same thing in the exact same situation. So while like results can change based on the damage that you deal, how much healing you get off, things like that, because like literal number values, there is RNG in that, but the positioning and the attack choices, those will stay the same as long as the strategy is the same. And yeah, right here, there's an item that's dropped, but I really don't worry too much about items that have dropped the spoils, because I need to live. Living is just so much more important than picking up these items. I mean, obviously, you know, different difficulties, different strategies, it might be easier for you to just immediately go pick something up. But yeah, for me, I'm playing on hard mode, and I'm specifically trying to have none of my characters die. I don't want a single character to die. I'm basically playing this like retro Fire Emblem, where if a character dies, they're gone forever. That isn't the case. So, you know, if someone does die, like, it's fine. Obviously, you can keep fighting even if you lose like 1 or 2 characters. But I think it's a bad practice to overly rely on that, especially on hard mode, because if you lose a unit too early, that means that you're just not going to have that unit available to you, and if it's early on, there's a very good chance that things just get worse and worse and worse as the battle goes on, and so then you find yourself investing like 30 minutes into a fight that realistically you just weren't going to win. And since I'm making a guide myself, I prefer to show you guys how to do it without anyone dying. So, you know, if you make a mistake and someone dies, it's not necessarily a big deal because of, you know, various strategies, and especially, again, if you're playing this on an easier difficulty, it won't be as demanding. But, you know, if I'm showing you a guide where my characters do die, then I don't think that's as useful. But, yeah, right here, I've basically have full control over the side. I'm going to clear out this blind unit. I'm going to clear out the archer now that he's no longer blind and no longer asleep. But yeah, let's go ahead and fast forward a bit, because this is quite a long video and all these units are going to be pushing forward, and I want to show you how I engage with that. So what I am doing here is I am blocking off like the road, the path to that west side over there, to keep like my healers safe. I have like Anna, Roland, Serenoa, Eridor, all of them in the front. I had to use Jens. Jens isn't like the tankiest unit, but he is like tankier than my healers and mages. So I definitely put him a little forward to just help from enemies forcing their way through. You can see I have a lot of status ailments going out. Fury, Poison, Blind. I also have like Ice on the ground to reduce movement. But that's not really like something I'm aiming for. It's just really what happens to go on. It's really just the Blind and the Fury, I think, that are the most important. Because that's the Blind, basically they're going to land like maybe 1/4 of their hits. And then again, the Fury, they can specifically only target Eridor, who has really high defense. So it makes healing much more manageable. But yeah, again here, the AI got confused a bit, so a lot of them were dropping back. So let's go ahead and fast forward again. And here you can see, like, I cleared out the top units, so I'm now being able to change the position. I can come out of the west side. The north side is completely clear now. So I'm moving my frontline units a bit down to protect against the southern enemies. And I can keep Huette over on the side there right next to, I guess, like the river. Just that body of water there. Because there's not really positioning for the enemies to go there, but she can still shoot her arrows up from there. It's a really nice position, or I'd highly suggest taking advantage of that. The only enemy to really worry about here specifically is the mage. The mage can target someone for like 200 damage. It's quite a bit, so you really need everybody to be at full HP. So you can see me like throwing out a lot of heals here, as I really don't want to die to him. So it's important to pay attention to how much TP the mage has, and you know, heal up accordingly. Like right here, that one's just the healer, so that's fine. And the next one, I believe, is the mage. He only has the 1 TP, so he cannot take another turn. He already did previously. Let's go ahead and fast forward through this. Nope, that's a little too far. So yeah, essentially very straightforward. I was able to just knock down all those enemies. Once I took care of the mage, it's just like, oh, okay, it's just a pikeman, some sword guys. Very straightforward. I already had everyone being blockaded by the front line, Serenoa, Eridor, Roland, so I didn't have to worry about anything. But yeah, I just kind of got the boss character to hide in this little corner here, and yeah, he couldn't one-hit anybody. So I was able to just kind of take my time and just hit him over and over again. If anybody got low, I would just immediately heal them back up. And yeah, very straightforward. Obviously, you don't need him in this corner. It's actually more effective if you'd be outside of it, because then you can get the full surround and get multiple flanking attacks, those attacks of opportunity. But yeah, that's just where he happened to be, and I just immediately wanted to finish this chapter. It took me like 37 minutes overall, so it was very, very difficult and very taxing. But yeah, either way, that's going to be my guide. This was definitely a longer one. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments down below, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next video. Peace.